Again, I'm Steve Hare for NCWLIFE News. It's filing week for those potential candidates who'd like to file for public office. Among the many candidates filing here in Chelan County for a position would be Kyle Mott, local attorney who's seeking election to the position 2 district court judge that is being retired now by Nancy Harmon. Welcome to the program, Kyle.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Well, this is a big jump for you, moving from as a defense attorney here locally to the bench. Let's talk about that first of all, and why you decided to run.
Well, in law school, I externed for a district court judge, a federal district court judge down in the Central District of California, Judge Andy Guilford, and I was just completely impressed by the way he handled himself and approached cases. And I thought, you know, someday that's something that I want to do. And then I came to Chelan County, and I ended up law clerking for the Superior Court judges here. At the time, it was Judge Small, Judge Nakata, and Judge Allen. A couple of those retired now. But that further alerted me to the fact that that was a position that I wanted to go for at some point, a judgeship. And now working in district court, I like the caseload, I like the subject matter, and I decided, you know, now is as good a time as any.
Well, Kyle, I want to learn more about your experience and background, education, and so forth, but let's provide maybe a little primer to our viewers on NCWLIFE TV now about the difference between Superior Court and District Court. Now, you're seeking a position on the District Court bench. What's the difference?
The difference is the superior courts are courts of general jurisdiction, meaning they can hear all cases and controversies. District courts are courts of limited jurisdiction, so at least in Washington, they hear misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, name changes, anti-harassment matters, infractions, and civil matters where the amount of controversy is less than $100,000.
Whenever I think of district court, I think of traffic court. You know, that's where you go to take care of traffic tickets and parking tickets and that type of thing.
That is part of it. Yeah, there are mitigation hearings and then contested hearings where people can try and show that they did not do the infraction that they're accused of committing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your background. First of all, your education.
Well, I'm actually from East Wenatchee. I graduated from East Mott High School, and after that, I spent 1 year at University of Puget Sound. Wasn't my cup of tea. Great school, but not mine. And so I went to Gonzaga after that. Absolutely loved it there. Had a few years off before going to law school, and then I went to law school at Chapman University down in Orange, California, in Orange County, yeah. The city of Orange in Orange County.
Right,
so,
yeah, I'm very familiar with that area, having come from Southern California myself.
Well, yeah, you would know.
But anyway, you went to Gonzaga University.
I did, the Adam Morrison years.
East Mott grad.
Yes.
Okay. You've worked as an extern, you say? Now, what function does an extern?
An extern, I think it's probably just a made-up term recently. It's more or less an internship, but you get college credit for it. In my case, it was law school credits. So you're not paid for it, but it's part of the educational experience.
Okay, let's talk about moving from one side of the bar to the other. Working as a defense attorney, obviously there's a big difference.
There's a difference.
A huge difference.
Yeah, there's very much a difference there, but it's a leap that, you know, I know the subject matter. I work with clients on a daily basis. I know the troubles and the impact that these hearings and outcomes can have on them. So I think I'd be uniquely positioned to be able to consider those things when resolving matters where there is discretion.
Well, you know, the court's also seen as a major source of revenue, I know, for Chelan County as well. The district court is also in that situation. Caseloads in Chelan County have been growing, as I understand, too. What are your thoughts on that, the caseload and the burden that carries with it?
There is a burden of being efficient, that's for sure, because a calendar starts at 1:30 in the afternoon, and I was there until 5 o'clock yesterday, and so were my clients that were there at 1:30 as well. So you just wait for your case to be called. And there's a burden on the prosecutor, the defense, and the judge to make sure things move swiftly, but also giving every case its due and not to lose sight of that just for efficiency purposes. I actually spoke to Judge Harmon, I believe it was Monday after work, and she said caseloads in district court are actually down about 25% than they were, I forget how long ago she said, but I think when she started, so about 12 years ago. They've gone down a little bit, but it's still full dockets. And
are there any differences in the way that you sentence people in district court versus superior court?
In terms of, well, times are definitely different, because superior court, being felony matters, those are punishable by a year or more. A district court maximum punishment for any matter is 364 days and up to a $5,000 fine. And some of there's Department of Corrections sentencing conditions in superior court. In district court, we have a probation department through the county that helps offenders with treatment providers and making sure that they're meeting their conditions.
I know there are a lot of legal issues out there that are very controversial around the country right now. I know that you're under some constraints, though, in terms of what you can discuss, right?
That is correct. Being a judicial candidate, we're bound by the judicial canon set out by the Washington State Supreme Court. And part of that is we're not able to discuss anything that might appear before the court in any sort of way, as that would potentially alert the public to any sort of biases that should not be there. The purpose of a judge is to be completely impartial, and you don't want to come across as having a predisposed thought on a matter.
Well, that issue has popped up occasionally because I think that politically speaking, we hear a lot these days, especially from Congress, about the notion that there's too much legislating from the bench. Can you comment on that, and what are your thoughts on it?
I know that is a concern. Not so much.
Court.
I was going to say not so much at the district court level, but the judge is supposed to interpret and apply the laws that are given by Congress. There is what they call common law, where a judge makes decisions that aren't necessarily encoded in the law anywhere, but they're arrived at by applying previous case law and the laws that are at least apply to the subject. Sometimes judges are accused of overreaching in terms of furthering their own agendas or thoughts on a matter, and that's stuff you see in obviously there's thoughts of the Supreme Court and a heavily divided Supreme Court. That's because each side kind of has their own thoughts, and you might look to the appointing president for those kind of, if it's a Democratic president, you might have a more left-leaning judge, so those judges might tend to view contested matters a certain way if there's a little bit of leniency there in terms of interpretation.
Okay. I know that as a judicial candidate, you are not affiliated with any particular party, but how would you describe yourself? As conservative, liberal, or just how would you describe yourself?
I think, and that's correct, it's a nonpartisan position, so I'm not a Republican or Democrat or anything like that, but I think a lot of people in my generation, and it's a generation that's moving into positions of more influence and jobs and owners of companies, I think a lot of us tend to take a more moderate track towards things. The news is very polarizing in how they report, not saying local news, but I mean at national levels. I think my generation is pretty good at being able to filter out some of that noise and kind of arrive at our own opinions on matters, and generally that falls somewhere in the middle on these issues.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add before we let you go here? Kyle Mott, again, is running as a judicial candidate for Chelan County District Court, Position 2. That's the position that's being retired by Nancy Harmon. So is there anything else about your candidacy or yourself that you'd like to share with our viewers on NCW Life?
Well, I'd just like to ask the viewers for their vote in this upcoming election. We're running kind of a grassroots campaign, if you will. A lot of money can be thrown into these sort of elections, and we're trying to be smart about our expenditures and signage, things like that. But I think my main point is, I have a varied background. I've done some civil work through Ogden Murphy Wallace here locally and the Lacey Kane law firm. I clerked for judges in Superior Court and externed down in Central District of California. And I think these experiences provide me with a kind of a broad base of knowledge. And right now, I'm a defense attorney, a public defender. And the previous 3 judges in Chelan County District Court have all been prosecutors. Retiring Judge Judith McCauley in Douglas County is a former prosecutor, and her appointed replacement, Judge Bigger, is also a prosecutor. And these are great people, but I think that there is a need for some balance in background in the local judiciary, and I'd ask for your vote to help us provide that.
Thank you very much for providing us some time with you this morning, and good luck in your candidacy and going forward.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Kyle Mott joining us on NCW Life. I'm Steve Hare.